2, 1. And I hope this will work.
Yeah, it'll take,
Reconnecting. All right.
takes a few seconds to.
Amazing. So, I hope we are live. I'm just going to start this show. I am super thrilled to be both on Kavarii and with the Kavarii founder, Ryan. Ryan, I think I found you first, or I saw you first, of course, when you came to Elrond with Aravec, of course. We'll talk about that project in a second. First of all, hello, how are you doing? How's everything? Are you excited to have a live stream on Kavarii?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's exciting to kind of battle test the live stream here. Like we were talking about earlier, is we haven't had a lot of time to test it yet because everything was focused on the NFT videos and stuff like that. So, fingers crossed that everything goes smooth. But if it doesn't, hey, we're still in beta, so that's our excuse, I guess.
I am also recording this, so in case something happens to the live stream, I think we'll be able to just post a video on Kavarii
Yep.
later on. But we'll just pretend everything's working. If anybody can hear me in chat or something, that would be great feedback to get. We'll just keep it running though. Yeah, super happy to have you here. Basically, what we're gonna do is we'll talk a little bit about your background, how you got into the market, the whole blockchain space, and talk about your ventures, of course. And then we're gonna play a fun game of chess, or two, maybe even. We'll see. We'll see how fun it is, and then we'll decide how many games we're gonna play.
Yeah,
But
I can
yeah.
have fun losing. So,
So let's start with your background. I know you didn't start out in blockchain. Of course, nobody did when they're as old as we are. What's kind of your background? How did you grow up maybe, and what did you do before blockchain?
yeah, so I was always kind of an adrenaline junkie. I grew up racing cars and dirt bikes and things like that, and so it's kind of a very polar opposite from where I am today, being a coder kind of nerd. But when I got out of high school, I really got into the engineering side of things. I went to this trade school for fiber optic engineering and did that for about 8 years, 7 8 years. Some civil engineering for a couple of years, and got tired of the office life. And from there, I really dove into coding and kind of wanting to build websites. But back in those days, it was early 2000s, 2005, something like that. It wasn't like it is today with all the tutorials and the endless information that you can find. So it was kind of a tough going, but absolutely fell in love with it and wanted to pursue it. So just kept working at it and got into crypto probably around 2016. Somewhat early days, relatively
Yeah,
speaking. And back in those days, I kind of wish we were in those days still. It was truly the Wild West, and nobody was talking about institutions and regulations, and nobody was really paying attention outside of the smaller circles that were really into it. So, it's kind of sad to see that go, but as anything, it evolves and moves on, and we got to evolve and move on too. But around 2018 or so, I really kind of started diving into the blockchain development side of things with Ethereum. um, Kind of cut my teeth, so to speak, and absolutely love the idea of blockchain replacing databases for all sorts of different things, and kind of just never look back from there. I wanted to keep
to
pushing forward and
the
forward. And,
blockchain
the
development side
technology
of
was
things
never
with
really there to
Ethereum,
build mainstream products
kind
yet,
of cut my teeth.
and it's still kind of behind. If you're building on Ethereum or something like that, because of the slower transactions and high cost of them. It's not feasible to build social type networks and things like that. So that's really where Elrond came in and kind of lit that spark of, now some things are possible. We can build some really cool stuff with this technology. So, that's kind of a short history of how I got to where I am. But the future is still bright, regardless of, a lot of what's going on in the world with FTX and whatever. But we're those people that are truly here for the technology, not the price speculation, although that is a fun part of it, sometimes fun. But it's not going to deter us at all. As far as we look at it, it's a technology that's not going away. So why get, discouraged by it and things like that. So anyways, it's great to be here. There's nowhere else I'd rather be than the blockchain crypto space. I call it the blockchain space because that's where we spend most of our time. I'm not much of a crypto speculator, but absolutely love the blockchain and what it brings. So anyways, that's a little short history on me.
Did you ever do any trading and got burnt, or was that
Oh
just
yeah,
never?
I've gone to zero plenty of times. I bought coins back in 2016, 2017. You know, made a lot of rookie mistakes like everybody does, but fortunate enough to have some that got lucky. When I first got into Elron, it was the day it got listed on Binance, and it was ERD back at that time, and I think I bought in at like 12 cents, 11 cents, something like that, and I never stopped buying since then. I always believed in the project and their vision, so stacked as much as I could, but it's there's some that bit you, and you got to learn from your mistakes and move forward. So, I think Bitcoin was one of them. I got bit pretty hard on back in like 2017. Most people probably don't even know what that is, but
I've
um,
never heard of it.
yeah, it was a pretty big coin back then. It was one of the top, top tens or whatever. But this was when Ethereum was fairly new and not popular yet, and everybody was just scrambling. If you had a white paper back in those days, you were killing it. So that's kind of, what we based everything on.
That's cool. By the way, I think we may have missed a bit of the intro of you. I see it live now. The stream chat I don't think is working. I don't know if anybody.
Let me hop in and check it out here.
Yeah. Um,
Like live test
but
here.
I can see myself on a different screen on a different computer, so I'm hoping things are okay. Thank you everybody for bearing with us. Either way, that's so. When you're saying like, so you found the blockchain relatively early. Was there something where you had like an aha moment that was sort of the I don't know, something that really you found compelling and intriguing and kept you in this space, and later on then like pulled you in this space as a builder yourself.
I'm sorry, I was writing a message to one of my teammates to look at the WebSockets for the chat.
No
Can you repeat
worries.
the last part of that?
The basically how you got, was there something that compelled you to start building on it? Something that was kind of like not only intrigued you about the technology, but then also wanted you to build something on top of it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was seeing the future early kind of thing. I was graduating high school in the dot-com era when the internet kind of blew up. And I remember seeing web addresses in TV commercials, at the bottom. Back then it was super strange, seeing this www.pepsi.com or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is super weird. It's interesting. But I kind of missed that boat, because I was really young and, young and dumb, so to speak. So when blockchain started coming around, I got that same feeling. I got that feeling that we're at the cusp of something that's new and exciting and that could, really change the world in a lot of different ways. And I'm not going to miss it this time, and I don't want to be a bystander sitting there watching everybody else push this space forward. I want to be involved with it. And having, at that time, 5, 6 years of development under my belt, it's like, okay, it's time to really kind of dive in and see what this is all about. At the time, I didn't really know what the use cases for blockchain were. Everybody kind of comes into the space with the idea that crypto is blockchain and vice versa, and they're synonymous with each other. But as soon as that kind of got separated in my mind, that crypto is just a use case of blockchain. There's a lot of other use cases for it, as far as decentralized storage and smart contracts and things like that. So it was a really an attractive notion to jump into. And so I wasn't going to miss the boat this time. I was going to, dive in, whether, it was going to be a win or fail. But it's one of those things that once you get in, you're absolutely hooked on it. It's such a fascinating technology. Whoever thought it up, whoever Satoshi is or whatever is, obviously a genius to be able to think in this way to create this new financial structure that really has the potential to change everything. And so, who doesn't want to be a part of that, right? It's just finding where where can I fit in and where can I be of most help to kind of push this space forward.
And you saw yourself like, I know you had like a, or it still exists, I'm not sure, the Vet X thing. So you mentioned that you're a car enthusiast. So you actually started a business that was also in the car business. And did you ever think about like maybe transitioning that into the blockchain space as well, or how did the kind of idea? Aviation is another kind of like high adrenaline kind of thing maybe for you. But like, was that from at some point when you saw that, were you always kind of intent on starting something in that world, or transitioning even maybe an existing Web 2 company to Web 3?
Yeah, I mean, VetX was, we started that in I think 2016. So at this point, I wasn't doing a lot of blockchain development, if any at all. It was mostly getting burned on shitcoins or whatever. Super
Like the
early
rest
days.
of us. Good.
Yeah, like the rest of us, right? So, I ran that from 2016 to about 2019. And so towards the end of it, we started having a lot of discussions on what or how can this benefit from blockchain technology. And so what VetX does is it's a software as a service that dealerships buy to help them fill and organize inventory, used car inventory. I'm not a fan of the auto industry, but I do love cars. And so, I was kind of in the spot of, I want out of this industry in a way, but I love what I do, right? So it's kind of I need to figure out what is it that I love, what is it that I hate, separate the two and really move forward with the parts that I love. And the parts that I love were the development side, the building the SaaS business and all that. The parts that I hated were the automotive industry because it's such a cutthroat, what's in it for me type industry. And so, after kind of exploring what the options were to, move to a Web3 model, it just wasn't there, without having to force it. And so, at that point, I kind of just decided I'm going to resign my titles as CTO and CFO, and move on into the Web3 space and look for a new opportunity. And I kind of was fortunate enough to have enough runway in my life to take a year off and really decide what I wanted to do. And at that point is when I was doing a lot of flying for business meetings and things like that. And that's where the aviation side really came from was, I'm flying around on these little Cessnas from San Francisco to LA or wherever and seeing the holes that were in the aviation industry. It's not what I saw in the automotive industry, right? It's not something that had to be forced. It was something that was just calling out to be, innovative. The aviation, especially the private aviation industry, is really behind technologically. There's a lot of paper and pencil. I mean, it's the best way to put it is very analog, right? And it needs to be upgraded to this digital world. And I don't know what the reason is. I mean, there's a lot of money in the aviation industry. It's just, I think it's one of those things that got complacent, right? What we do works, and there's no reason to kind of push it forward. And it's more of a niche industry. It's not for everybody, like cars are. Everybody drives a car, not everybody flies. But it really kind of sparked that interest of, okay, there's some holes that can be filled here using Web3. And so that's really where I made that transition from the automotive Web2 space to that new aviation Web3 space, so to speak.
So let's dive right in it while we're on it. By the way, hello to everyone who tuned in. I'm gonna treat this more as a live stream than I usually do, because I think we missed a few minutes in the beginning. We're talking to Ryan Dietz, the founder of Aravec and Kavarii. We're streaming on Kavarii, so probably most of you are aware of who Ryan is. But we're talking about his background and how he found a niche while looking for a new kind of challenge. And let's talk about Aravec, because that was your first. It sounds like your first kind of thought that propelled you, no pun intended, into the aviation industry. And what was the idea behind it? What did you want to fix? What was kind of the vision of the project?
Yeah, so the exposure is the first thing that I wanted to kind of, excuse me, tackle. There's very little exposure for aviation services for the average person. It's not something that, it is like Uber, or there's no easy way for somebody to get into it or even know about it. When I started flying, it's like I didn't even know this was possible. I didn't know I could hop on a Cessna for a couple $100 an hour and fly to San Francisco, which was, it's hour and a half flight maybe, but
Mm.
it's a 4.5 hour drive, or it's about a 45-minute flight, 4 hour drive. And so once I started doing it, it's like, why aren't more people doing this? The general assumption is when you fly private, you're going to spend $10,000 an hour, and it's going to be super expensive on this G5 jet and popping champagne, and that is not the case at all. And that's I think what really woke me up to the idea was there's way more options out there than we thought of, right? You don't have to take a brand new Mercedes. You can drive a Toyota Camry if you want, and so it was the exposure of that, of showing people what's possible and what they can do. And once it's one of those things, once you do it, you're like, holy cow, I'm gonna just keep doing this. When Marcus came up and did the interview with us, the Go Guy Go interview, we took him up in one of the Cessnas and went flying around. And just the look on his face was like the proof in the pudding, right? He's looking at us like, holy shit, like this is so freaking cool. I didn't even know you could do this. And it's the same feeling I had. And I think it's the same feeling a lot of people are going to have when they finally get exposed to what's possible and they get up in the air in one of these little aircraft. I like to say it's like driving a or jet ski or a dirt bike or something. When you're up in these little planes, it's pretty wild, and it's like a super cool roller coaster that it's one of those feelings you can't get anywhere else. So it's just my way of introducing people to it so they can go have that same feeling that we had.
So talk a little bit about how the product is going to work. You're picturing something like an Uber for aviation for private users, and how are you connecting pilots with passengers? How's the whole thing going to work?
Yeah, so the general idea is to work as close to Uber as possible because of
Mm-hmm.
the simplicity of it. Uber is the most simple app on the planet to use for what it gives you. Being able to call a driver that is going to be there within a couple minutes to take you wherever you want for a low cost. It's an amazing technology, and it seems very simple, but it's really not. We want that same kind of idea, but for us, it's really important with Aerobec to be a community peer-to-peer project. And so open source and things like that is really what we're pushing for. It's not something, we went back and forth on, do we want to run this as a corporation or, actual company, or do we want it to be a true Web3 open source peer-to-peer product? And, we're really leaning towards the open source side of things because the whole premise of the charter app is that peer-to-peer environment. We don't want there to be a middleman that is taking cuts of the fees or any of the things that Web2 is notorious for, which is the middleman gets rich and everybody else has to not get rich or spend a lot of money. But with that peer-to-peer environment, it's a direct payment mechanism. It's a direct scheduling. It's everything is done between you and the pilot. And so there's no need for us to really be a company in the middle. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what we came to the realization of is why would we be in the middle of this? The only reason would be greed or something like that to want to take a cut. But if we open source it in a way and turn it into a community project that is run and managed by pilots and things in the community that flies, I think that would give Aerobec the best chance of survival because it is such a niche product, right? So it's not something that's just going to blow up overnight because not everybody flies private or flies in general. A lot of people are scared of flying.
Right.
I'm scared of heights myself, so flying a little Cessna is terrifying, but it's terrifying, exciting. So that's kind of the idea behind it, and that's really the direction, or I don't want to say pivot because it's always kind of been in the back of our mind, and we've talked with the community a lot about the general idea of how to structure the company. And it's really big in Europe and Romania, obviously because of Elron, but there's a lot of pilots and things over there. So being a California corporation, it doesn't make a lot of sense for us. And so that's the direction we really want to lean into. We'll always obviously be there for support and development and things like that. But with the Aero DAO and things like uh, give the community the ability to have a say in where the project's going to go. We just want to further build off of that and hopefully get it to a point one day to where it is a global, open source project that has thousands, if not millions of users of some type. And I mean, that would be the ultimate dream. But we got to start small, I guess, to get this thing off the ground first.
So let's talk about how NFTs tie into it, because you guys released an NFT collection as well. Um, why did you decide to also make this NFT? Is that like kind of a community buy-in collection, or later on having benefits? What was the idea behind bringing that, building that on top of building an NFT collection on top of the project, so to speak?
Yeah, so we were really early with the NFT game on Elrond, development wise, building NFT mentors and things like that. For the community, it really had nothing to do with us. It was, you know, somebody needed to showcase what Elrond was capable of, and it was so new at the time that, there wasn't a lot of developers that were working with the Elrond docs and programming side of things. So we wanted to step into the Elrond space or the NFT space, and give people the ability to start minting and things like that. So when it came time for our own project, it's like, okay, we need to give the project an identity of sorts and give people a loyalty and rewards program, because the airline industry really runs off loyalty and rewards, right? It's
Yeah.
got frequent flyer miles and all that sort of stuff. So this is our way of doing that. And frequent flyer miles is a huge industry. It's in the billions, and it's mind blowing if you actually look at it. I had no idea until my biz dev guy dove into it and kind of came back with a report. But that was the idea behind the NFTs. It's going to be a loyalty rewards program for the frequent flyers and things of that nature that get you discounted flights, get you tokens back for frequent flyer miles and things of that nature. So that's really the idea behind it. But it's going to be a big build out till we get to that point, right? Because this is a huge infrastructure to be able to handle all this, and especially if we're going to do fiat on and off ramps and offer liquidity pools for Bitcoin and Ethereum and all these other coins, right? So, if you want to go take a flight, you don't have to have the Arrow token. You can use Bitcoin or Ethereum, but you're going to pay fees for that. But if you have an NFT or if you use the Arrow token, then you bypass all the fees. And so it's that rewards program that really that NFT is going to be driving moving forward.
Are you going, just a random kind of question that came to mind? Are you going to price things in the USD value of the flight, or are you going to kind of keep your separate ecosystem?
So I think it'll be both, especially to start, because a lot of people still use USD value when they base everything, right? Europeans, use euro, but I think it's important to have both and then see which way we go with it, and hopefully phase out USD altogether and just have everything in the token price, because the Arrow token is going to be used, its main purpose is as a currency back and forth,
Yeah.
because that's what the technology is best for. It's a fast, cheap transaction. Bitcoin and Ethereum aren't fast, cheap transactions, and the dollar definitely isn't a fast, cheap transaction. So that's a major use case for it. And I know some people don't like that idea because we've become so used to this hold your bags type mentality, and everything's looked at as an investment. And we don't look at it that way. We look at these tokens as they're meant to be used. They're meant to be transacted. They're meant to be spent. Um, and so that's really what we want to push for. We don't want everybody just buying tokens and holding them and hoping the price goes up. But I mean, that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's not our utility. That's not why we created the token. That's kind of a byproduct, I guess, so to speak. So we want the token to be transacted as much as possible. We want it to be used and people to take advantage of the benefits that it has with fast, cheap transactions.
Yeah, actually, that's a great kind of hook to, or segue to something I wanted to talk about, like the onboarding process. You must think a lot about that, both with Kavarii and Aravec. There's so many people who might want to take advantage of the offers of the platforms, but then be scared of taking the leap into this foreign technology, especially when they see it as something where, for example, that token could just be like going up, going way down, so they don't want to purchase that because of all the DeFi kind of shenanigans. So I think I mean, hearing that is really exciting to me, because I'm always thinking about, like, okay, how can we make people like feel comfortable enough in order to enter this space that has such a bad reputation. Have you thought about, like, different ways of bringing people in without one, them being exposed to these dangers, and two, kind of just making them comfortable enough to on ramp them into the space to begin with, to even be able to understand how to buy into a project that isn't in USD or doesn't really exist in USD. So
Yeah, so again, back to what I was saying, the volatility comes from this mentality of hold, right?
yeah,
And everything's an investment. Nothing has a utility, right? It's like that's what I don't like about this space the most, if I'm being honest. And I'm sure that's an unpopular opinion, and I'll get some flack for it, but I'm a very honest person. So I'm not a fan of hodl. I'm not a fan of buy all these bags up and hold on for dear life. That doesn't make sense to me. I mean, yeah, there's great investments in this space, and you can go about it that way. There's nothing wrong with that. But where we come from, the utility is the most important. That's what drives everything. There's no point to have a token if it's not going to be used, right? It's just an investment vehicle at that point, and that's not what we want. I know that some people have said, well, why do you need your own token? Why can't you just use Elrond? Well, that doesn't make any sense either. If you want to send somebody a tip, you're not going to put 0.0001, when you want to send a transaction and risk having an extra zero or not, missing a zero. It doesn't make sense as a currency for a platform. And the Kavarii token, we've been asked this question a few times about volatility and, why would somebody want to hold the token if it can go up and it can go down? And it's like, well, it's the same thing for any token, right? No token safe, no stock is safe. Look at what Facebook's done, right? It's down what, 90%?
mm,
Uh, it's it's not the way that we look at things. We look at things from a utility standpoint, and the rest will fall into line if we do our jobs correctly. And having the Kavarii token used as a transaction for every engagement, for every action, every like, subscribe, adding a video to a watch list, the list will go on as we think of more things. But if we can do that correctly, then the rest will fall in line. Nobody that I've seen in the entire crypto space has built a product with a token that is actually used in a way like this, right? It's like, okay, we're going to do this for the token, but the whole mentality is just hold that token for an investment and it'll go to the moon and it'll go to $1 or whatever it is. And I refuse to look at things that way. I don't like that mentality because it spurs off a lot of other toxic traits in the space, which is what's in it for me. And you get this community of I don't care about the health of the project. I care about my investment. And that's all I care about. And that is not a great way to support projects and really change the game or change the world or change the space, however cliche that may sound. But if you really are here for the tech and you really want to push Web3 adoption, to the mainstream, you've got to start looking at utility. You've got to stop looking at it from an investment standpoint because that's what adds the volatility to the market. You have market manipulators, you have pump and dumps, you have all the focus on this investment vehicle. And we all know when you speculate on an investment stocks or whatever, there's right from manipulation, right? The stock market is notorious for this.
yeah,
You can see how these hedge funds, and I'm not going to really, go too far into this tangent. Let's save this for another conversation. But look at what hedge funds and all these guys do with these short squeezes and stuff like that. Is that really healthy? We're never going to have. You always say we can't have nice things. We're never going to have nice things if we keep this mentality up of everything's an investment. I act like I'm here for the tech, but really, what's in it for me? When are you going to make me rich? I bought an NFT for $40. Why am I not a millionaire? It's like, come on, man. Like, do you really believe in the project? Do you really want it to succeed, or do you really just want, to make a couple of bucks for yourself, and you really don't give a shit about what we're doing here? So that I'm not saying that to be negative. I'm just saying it, as what I see as an obvious downfall of this ecosystem. And this has nothing to do with Elrond. This is all of crypto that I'm speaking about. Elrond's actually, a lot better in a lot of ways than other chains or whatever. But when you get this tribalism and you get this way of thinking that I only care about me and my investment, and I'm not going to use the token, I'm not, the project's going to fail if that's what your community's thinking and that's what they act like. So we try to really focus on the utility of things. We focus on the use case and how you can benefit from the system. As a creator, for instance, the monetization, instant monetization of of every action. That's something that's very new, that's never been done before. And we're taking a huge risk with the onboarding part, back to your original question, is we went full Web3, right? Nobody's gone full Web3 with a product like this.
Yeah.
You look at Odyssey or DTube or any of the competitors, they have like a crypto token tipping system, and that's it. Okay, well that's cool, but you still have email logins, you still have passwords. That's not Web3. Like that's dipping your toe in, but scared to go all the way, and that's not a knock towards them. I completely understand why they did it, and it's probably a smart move they did it that way. We're taking a big risk by doing what we're doing and going wide open, 100% all in on blockchain technology. And the onboarding process is going to be very difficult. It's going to take a long time to educate people on how to do it, why they should do it, and what it means at the end of the day to have a fully transparent, fully monetized Web3 experience for creators and users. So, anyways, that long-winded experience is kind of why we're doing what we're doing and what our goals and focus are, and how we think that we can drive this space forward with adoption by actually adding utility and function to the token and not just being an investment vehicle.
Yeah, I love all of that. I will briefly maybe just sum up the Arovec part of the conversation with like where are you guys right now? When can we when will there be any like concrete use case for the tokens? What does the future hold? Like what's kind of the timeline of where you're headed?
Yeah, so with Aerobec, we have the native app charter that's in development. That is pretty close. We've been beta testing, internally and things like that. There's still some things to do, obviously, but that's something that I think ultimately we're just going to open source and put out there. But charter is it's a complex app because it works just like Maiar. It's a native wallet. It doesn't use any wallet connects or anything like that. And then also, one thing that we're going back and forth on is we want to do the on and off ramps. Well, that's a very expensive integration. And so it's a tricky thing if we want to go open source with it when we have integrations like that. So that's something that we got to figure out and really discuss with our community on how we want to go about implementing that or moving into the open source space. But another addition to the Charter app is the business portal. That's a desktop app that you can download in the App Store. That is a really cool way for businesses to get their business organized and their flights and their payments and everything. So you don't have to do everything on mobile, and it's a really robust system of management. It's a management protocol, so to speak. So you can manage all your flights, manage all your funds coming in and out, and things of that nature, um, and have a separate system than what the mobile app is. Because the mobile app's really going to be for the end user, right? The guy
Yeah.
that's looking to schedule a flight and everything like that. Well, the secretary or whoever's handling all that on the back end, they don't want to be sitting here on a phone trying to keep everything organized, right? So they have a nice business portal or desktop app that they can do all that through. Both of those obviously have to be integrated and synced to each other, which they are. But it's just a lot of work to build that out, and it's not something that has ever really been built before. Even in Web2, if you look at the aviation space, there's nothing really like this. And so we kind of leapfrogged the whole Web2 and went straight to Web3 with this application. And there's a big learning curve, but we made great progress. So I'm thinking our goal was to be beta testing by the end of the year, which is coming up quick. And we are beta testing internally, but as far as a public beta test, I'd say we're still 1 to 2 months out from letting people in. But we're going to slowly start letting more and more people in and start playing with it and give us feedback, and then really have to make the decision on when do we want to open source or when do we want to bring in more devs, community devs to start, because we want them to come in and get up to speed before we just drop it, right? So that everybody's not scrambling and everything like that. So we have to be very smart about how we kind of release this to the community to start stepping in. But over the next coming months, that's really going to be the focus of that is integrating it into the community side of things to get their hands dirty and start playing around with it and hopefully start building on top of it.
Do you think when by the time the next X day rolls around and I ask you crazy questions about chartering people from different countries to another country, we'll be able to do that?
I'm really hoping so. I don't see why that wouldn't be the case. I think our biggest hurdle with that would be having enough pilots. I think we'll have the users and we'll have the technology, but getting pilots to get outside of their comfort zone and try something new it's a difficult task. We're not going to try to sugarcoat it and say all this is easy and sing kumbaya. It's difficult. There's a lot of marketing, there's a lot of strategy that goes into it. Pilots, just like any other industry, they get used to something and they don't want to try something new if there's not a big benefit in for them. But I think the fees alone is enough motivation. If you're taking a $10,000 flight and you're using a credit card, you're paying 2.5 to 3.5% fees
Yeah.
on top of it. A couple $1,000, right? So um, it's it's something that we have to expose the benefits to attract the pilots, and with the pilots, everything else will come along with it.
Yeah, just to clue some the rest of the audience in, we were planning something crazy for X Day, and I tried to get in touch with Ryan to basically charter a jet and fly some people to a different place. But of course, like next year, next year we might be able to do that. Let's switch to Kavarii. The vision, as you already explained, I think is quite similar, right? Like eliminating basically the middleman, making all the money. Bringing in users to a new space, developing a token that's actually being used as something that's useful and not just as something that's hodled and blown up in DeFi pump and dumps.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more why you got into that, where you saw the niche there, how you decided to also, on top of all the Aravex stuff that you must be doing, burden yourself with another like a big project.
Yeah, so Kavarii is, like I've said before, is a passion project because I'm a huge consumer of video content. I am the end user. So I built this for me essentially in the sense that what I want to see out of a video sharing platform. I am not a fan of what YouTube does from a business level. The censorship that they do, the deplatforming, the demonetization of channels at their own discretion without any kind of warning or anything like that. It's really doing a disservice to the people. And there's a lot of competitors out there that like Twitch or these companies that really get the users to buy in, but they own all the content. They own everything the user does, and I hate that aspect of it. I haven't seen one that has come out that's truly for the people, and I guess that's the easiest way to put it. So when I started looking at the idea behind it, is we were talking about NFTs, and NFTs obviously have blown up and become extremely popular because of JPEGs and pictures of monkeys and everything else, and I'm a huge speculator on the NFT side, a lot more than I am the token side, because I love the art. I buy NFTs without looking at what the rarity is, without looking at if the project even rugged or not. I honestly don't care because I'm not buying them to sell them. I own hundreds of them that I never plan on selling just because I'd rather put them up on my wall as a metal print or something like that. It's an identity of the crypto space that I think is super cool and it's unique to us, right? As users of the crypto space. So taking the NFT utility further, which we talked about crypto being a utility of the blockchain, right? There's plenty of other utilities out there. For instance, we use smart contracts for all of our storage and instead of using databases and things like that. Well, NFTs are a great way to mint a video, not just an image. And so, when you look at the music industry or you look at any of these really popular industries, there's a lot of issues with licensing and with ownership and monetization that NFTs can solve. And so Kavari didn't really become an idea that we were going to put into motion until the NFTs really kind of took the main stage and said, okay, can we mint a 4K video as an NFT in somebody's wallet that we can monetize through interactions and engagement? And so that's where the first prototype really kind of got built. And I built it, or I spent about 2 or 3 months building it before I even told anybody I was doing it because it was a proof of concept for myself of can this be done? And I'm not going to go out there and tell everybody it can or tell everybody what I'm doing until I can actually prove that it can work. and um, after a couple months, it showed that it was going to work, and it can be done. So we just kind of went
And
to
now we're
work to do it.
streaming on it.
Now we're streaming on it. So it's so freaking complicated. Um, it's unreal, that everything that Kavarii does, it's not, if we were doing this in Web 2, it would be so simple. You have a database, you have, file storage. We can't do any of that with Web 3. We have to use IPFS. We have to run observer nodes for all of our API requests and everything like that. We run Python and object detection, artificial intelligence for, scanning the videos for pornography and things like that. I mean, there's so many things working together that I'm honestly some days surprised that it even works, because it's such a tall order to build and maintain that, I'm so impressed with the team and what they've been able to do to, in a short amount of time. We went from zero to this in like 6 months. And it's working a lot better than we expected for early beta. Obviously, there's still issues and a lot of things that we need to do and fix, like the stream chat. But all in all, for what it is and how complex it is, I'm blown away every day that I go on it. It's like, holy cow, this thing actually works. And the next part of it is the monetization and making sure that creators are rewarded for their content in a way that makes them want to keep coming back and creating content. So that's kind of the idea there, and there's a lot of work to do, but we're excited to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked the idea, and I don't actually know the background of this, so this is a question from me. When I uploaded a couple of these episodes that I've done before, you actually receive the NFT with like the thumbnail on it. Is that so you can identify where to send the tokens if the video is liked or receives any tips or whatever, or is that or is it just in order for the creator to have that as a like knowing that it's theirs and their creation? I think it's a very cool idea either way.
Yeah, so the NFT itself has a lot of data packed into it.
Mm-hmm.
Initial, just like any other NFT, you have the thumbnail image as your image of the NFT. Now, there's a lot of thought that went into why the NFTs are structured the way they are. There's actually um, 3 videos with a bunch of batch files, but 3 videos inside of every NFT. You only see the image because that's the URL that's exposed, just like monkey JPEGs or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But we run a what's called HLS, which is bitrate. It's adaptive bitrate streaming. There's a 720 version and a 360 version that are all packaged inside of that NFT using a IPFS CID. And I'll try not to get too technical here because some people just be like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
Me.
And then we encode all of that because we could expose the videos to everybody, but we don't want people stealing your videos, right? It's your content that you're monetizing. We don't want somebody that can just go easily take your IPFS link and download it and then upload it and make money off it, or whatever the case. One of the major benefits of blockchain is that we can protect your data. And so we encode all of that into the NFT itself, and then decode it once it's going to be served to the user. But as far as the actual NFT and the image, it's just like any other NFT you own. It's in your wallet. You can send it. If you want to go sell it on, frame it or whatever, you can go sell it. It acts just like any other NFT you're going to have. The only difference is the data and technology that's behind the scenes are encoded into that NFT that allows it to be monetized through the platform. And there's a lot of things that we're going to step into, like premium content, for instance. So when you upload or mint an NFT, you're going to decide whether you want that to be public or premium. And if it's premium, then it's behind a paywall, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so people that want to pay for that premium content will only be able to see that. And the way that we're going to do that is through staking. So let's say you want to have premium content for the awesome chess videos that you do. If I want to join that, I'm not going to just send you tokens to buy in. I'm going to stake into your channel. And what that means is I'm going to take, let's say 10,000 Kavarii tokens. I'm going to stake it into your channel. And then you, as the channel owner, are going to earn the rewards from that staking. And so it's a very creative way to do it, to where I'm not actually spending a lot of my tokens to get in, I'm supporting your channel by adding to your staking pool that you as the content creator are going to earn the rewards from that staking pool. And so it's a mutual beneficial kind of staking mechanism that allows you to earn as a creator, allows me to have access to it. But then you're going to have like leaderboards and all these things of channels and their staking pools and how much are staked in their channels. And it's going to be a new style of metric to show a popularity of a channel and things like that. So that's just one idea that, we're working with that, you know, we have the ability to do these cool things because of Web3 and because of blockchain. Why not do them? Why not push the envelope? Why just keep doing the same thing that everybody else does? And I'm not a big fan of just traditional token staking. I've said it since the beginning, even though we've done it. The only reason we've done it usually is because the community pushes for it.
Yeah.
But with Kavarii, we're not going to do token staking. I just refuse to do it. The token's meant to be used and spent. But I have no problem doing a channel staking, because you're earning from it. The user is earning by getting your quality content. And it's just a refreshing way to reward both sides without us having to be in the middle.
I absolutely, that's an amazing idea. I love that. And such a great way of actually showing how yeah, Web3 can be very different, and the buy-in can be very different, and the rewards can be very different if you compare it to Web2. So yeah, that's a really exciting thing. Want to start wrapping it up almost. Want to touch on Multiverse X or Elrond and that. But wrapping up Kavarii, status right now, we're in beta, you're in beta. There's a lot that's already functioning, of course, like streaming seems to be working pretty well. We'll get the feedback later, I'm sure. You can upload videos, you can already stream them, you can already tip, you can already like videos. By the way, everybody who's liked and tipped and whatever, thank you so much. I'm going to give that all away at the end of the video, or find some way of giving that back to the community. Yeah, maybe talk about the status and like kind of the next couple of steps in the roadmap and what's up yeah, around the
Yeah.
corner.
So to start, we have it really locked down right now as far as the users that we're allowing in through the NFT access, and that's done on purpose. When launching a project of this magnitude, you can't just say, okay, the gates are open, everybody come in and it's a free for all. We've got to be very strategic and surgical about how we go about launching this product, so we don't get overwhelmed with what we're able to keep up with, and as far as bug reports and things like that. So, we've got a lot of the major issues fixed. One of the biggest issues that we have left to solve is load balancing between servers. With so much different technology going on in the background between the observer nodes, between IPFS, we run our own IPFS node. It's a very complex system to scale. And so that's, from the system admin side, that's our focus there, is making the site more stable, quicker, page load times quicker, videos play quicker, all that kind of stuff. As far as development goes, we're really going to lean into the music side next. The music industry is a great this is a great use case for the music industry in using SFTs. So if you're a artist and you want to mint 1 million songs, you can do so. We have what's called Kavarii Tracks, and it's going to be a dedicated music platform. And some users have already played with it. It's pretty cool. It's one of my favorite features. But it works similar to Spotify in the sense you can build stations, you can listen to music, whatever. Every song that I add to my station, is going to send the creator a couple tokens. So he's getting rewarded for that. But there's also a buy button underneath every song. So you can buy that SFT from them and add that song into your station, download the MP3 and everything else. So you have, ownership of it. So that's we have a couple artists that, we're partnered with that we're going to be announcing. We haven't done it yet just because we don't feel confident handling the huge influx of users they have. We're talking millions of followers, and if we brought in 1 million people overnight, I'm pretty sure the site would crash. We're not at the point yet to handle that because, unfortunately, we don't have the resources of YouTube or Twitch yet. So we're slowly going to grow into this, but I do plan on taking away the NFT access, But when we take away the NFT access, we're also going to reduce the staking rewards for that as well. Right now it's rewarding those early adopters that are helping us test and things like that, and people that believed in the project and bought the Kavarii and NFTs for that early access and for the free uploads and things like that. But that's not going to last forever. I'd say about another month or so, we're going to take that away, and everybody's going to have access to it. And by that time, we should be in a really good position to be scalable and really handle that growth, because there's a lot of people that want to pile into the site that we're kind of just, hold up a second, let us get our bearings and our, the architecture and foundation really strong before we do that. So we have the shorts that are coming, which are, like reels or
Mm-hmm.
whatever the mobile type videos that people can watch. Plus, there's a lot of, kind of behind the scenes things that we're working on that, we're not ready to release yet. But this thing's going to be forever built upon. It's never going to be finished. We're always going to be adding new cool stuff to try to innovate the space and show the utility of the Elrond technology and what's actually possible.
Is one of these bigger artists? I can't see the chat, but does he have a name that's kind of similar to Lo-Fi?
Lo-fi. I don't think so.
Okay, interesting.
So yeah, it's a DJ that does mashups. Is one that we've been talking to. Another one is pretty popular in the all-around space. I think everybody knows.
That's who I was referring to.
Yeah.
I think. All right. That's
Yeah. So Rez has been a good friend from back when. I mean, I've been talking with him at least a year or so now when he first got in the Elrond space, helping him with some dev stuff and whatever. But, I'm just a big fan of his stuff, even back when he was doing the Uber raps and whatever. So,
yeah.
He's a big supporter of what we're doing, and he's already announced that, he's partnered with us and stuff like that. We just haven't done the official announcement yet because we want to get a lot of this stuff situated before we really lean into that. And we want to give him the total focus of the project when we do announce that partnership and bring his music and stuff onto Kavarii. We don't want to just be like a side addition that we bring in. We want it to have 100% of our attention when we do it. But in order to do that, we need to kind of clear our plate off with some of the stuff that we have going on right now.
Awesome. That's cool news. Elrond, Multiverse X, you kind of highlighted throughout the interview, I think, some of the reasons you started building on it. How soon did you even discover it? And then let's talk a little bit about the kind of redirection, rebranding also of Elrond to Multiverse X, like how that affects what you're doing, whether you see the onboarding changing, things like that.
Yeah, so kind of like I said earlier, I found Elrond really early. The day they listed on Binance,
Mm-hmm.
I was a token sniper, I guess you could call it. I back in those days, if a token got listed on Binance, it was the biggest deal in all of crypto space. I used to stay up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning because I knew a token was getting listed. It was a huge deal, and when I saw Elrond and I saw the cheap price, and that's kind of like the first attraction. Okay, it's a very low price token. It's brand new. Let's look into it a little bit. And back then, their main marketing message was the speed, right? And this is when Ethereum was really kind of starting to get a bad rap for its speed and high cost of transactions. And Elrond was touting that they could do up to 250,000 transactions a second. And so that's initially like, okay, wow, that's what this space needs to really gain adoption, because we can use it for stuff, right? You're not going to go buy a cup of coffee and wait for 15 minutes for a finality. It's not, feasible. So that got me interested in doing more research. And I hopped in their Telegram, and, I think me and Margarita Paz were like a couple of the first 100 people in there, and like, hey, what's going on? Nice to meet you. And everybody was so cool. And I could
He was
get
in
this.
Paris, actually. Got to meet him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I heard, and that's kind of bummed I didn't go just for that. I wanted to meet him in person because me and him have had a really good kind of friend relationship since the early days, and we still talk and shoot the shit and banter and whatever. But super cool guy, and that's really the Elrond community gets a lot of its inclusiveness and its great attitude from people like him in the early days. That projected niceness and willingness to help and all that stuff really it started early in the community, and that's kind of what got me to stick around in the community and want to kind of watch it and see it through and see how the technology progressed and when I could start playing with it and stuff like that. So that's really how I got started and hooked on it. I came for the technology, I stayed for the community kind of thing. But as far as the rebranding goes, I remember when they rebranded from ERD to Eagle, and it's like, okay, I didn't really like the ERD name. I like the Eagle a lot better.
Yeah.
Elron, I'm somewhat of a Lord of the Rings fan. I wouldn't say big, but I think this name has a better fit for all the products they're trying to do. I'm not a big fan of the burst names because they're kind of keywords, but at the same time, I see how it makes sense, and so I'm not against it by any means. And I think the branding looks really cool. It's really attractive. A lot of the products they're coming out with, they're all going to be synonymous now. They all have the X, and they're going to be easily identifiable. So it makes sense, from that standpoint. So usually I'm not a big fan of rebranding, but in this case, I can see how it works and it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean the X Fabric, for example, sounded like a little bit similar to what you are planning on doing on Kavarii, right? Like the having a different tier. I don't know if you saw the videos or were like
A little bit, yeah.
the presentations, but basically having a free tier or then a pay to watch or whatever tier, and then like different premium level tiers. So I think like especially the repositioning itself to be kind of the chain for the metaverse is a really interesting pivot. That is interesting. Like that's also something I wanted to touch on real quick. In terms of like the metaverse potential for both. I mean, I guess Kavarii more specifically. Do you see anything like kind of synergies with that pivot that could really benefit your platform, or is it kind of like, well, we're doing what we're doing anyway?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most attractive thing that I've seen, I think it's the X Fabric. You got to forgive me, I'm not up to speed on all the different products that they
I
came out with
understand.
and the
They also
rebranding
haven't
it.
released that many details yet, so
Yeah,
it's
exactly. But being able to run our own shard, I think is super interesting. I
mm-hmm.
love that because um, it's kind of I look at it like parachains with Polkadot and these different other projects that have the ability to create your own blockchain specifically focused on your technology and what you're building. I think, from what I've seen so far, that's the most attractive to me and something I definitely want to get involved with. I don't know when it's going to be released or, so I'm not planning on anything at this point just because there's not enough details, like you said. But that's going to be something I'm most interested in. Along with a lot of the other things are coming up with the Dex 2.0, the Mex economics, all this stuff that's really needed, I think. I'm glad to see that they're putting focus on that and they're revamping a lot of these things. But I think is it X Fabric? Is that the one with the shards, or is
I
that?
believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a genius idea. And I think that's something that's so needed in this space because, if you get it, let's say, Kavarii does, God willing, blow up and we have millions of users, we don't want to slow down the blockchain for other people. And I'm not saying that we would, but there's always that potential, right? Is if you're taking up a lot of the bandwidth, then other people could potentially, have to sacrifice for that. So having our own parachain or having our own X fabric or having our own shard, whatever you want to call it, is a great way for projects like Kavarii that are very ambitious to have their own home and their own place to play around and not have any effect on the outside world, so to speak. And I think that's how it works. I could be completely freaking wrong, like I said, because I'm working on very little information. But that's what it sounded like to me, and that's super interesting. I think it's a great idea, and hopefully that's the way it's going to work moving forward.
Amazing. I've teased you long enough. We gotta play one game of chess. We'll see how it goes. I will try and challenge you right now. Are you on the thing? Yes, you are online. You should see like a little sword thing. I already heard a move. Did you already play?
No.
No. Okay. Do you see? Oh yeah, perfect. So I'm starting without a queen here. That should be a pretty good advantage. Let me fix the screen here.
Pretty good advantage. You're gonna
Um, I know we talked a little bit about chess actually, and but first before we go into the chess themed part, your turn, sir. Um,
Hmm.
you were mentioning you have hundreds of NFTs. What are some of the NFTs you like collect on? I mean, we don't have to stay on multiverse or anything. What are some of the projects you like the best?
Um, and for anybody watching, I don't know how to play chess. I played back in the day, but do not expect me to pull out any kind of genius here. I'm Minor Punks, like I was the first one I think I fell in love with. I love that style of art, the 8/16 bit or whatever. Everything Nogin has done is super cool. Obviously crypto pits, I think that's some of the best art I've ever seen.
I
You know,
agree.
we fully thought that they were hand drawing everything, and come to find out that it wasn't. It is absolutely amazing what they're able to create. So, big shout out to Curdy and Jared and Steven. Those guys, not only do they have kick-ass art, but they're very smart people in the way they run their business and the way they get the community fired up and the creativity behind it is freaking awesome. So, I'm really big fans of that. I bought a bunch of NFTs that, I'm pretty sure I've rugged by now because I haven't heard anything.
What's your favorite rug?
That's a tough one because I really don't pay attention. Like I said, I don't follow projects to
They could
like,
have all rugged and you wouldn't know.
yeah, I wouldn't have any idea. So it's like, if I do that, you're probably gonna kick my ass here. I don't know. I got into the what were they called? Something on Dead Rare. I don't even remember what they were, and I probably shouldn't promote them anyways. But I minted like a whole bunch of them because I was just kept hitting the mint button, and I got one that was like the second most rare, and then the next day it was like 400, and I'm like, how the hell does that even happen? Um, so
Not the gators, not the crocs,
yeah,
right?
I think it was no,
Not those
something like
reptiles.
that. I think it was the dinosaur ones or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah. I forget what they're called. The raptors.
Raptors. There you go.
Yeah, yeah. You like the art of those?
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I thought they were pretty cool. I get on these tangents where I just kind of fly through and buy a bunch of crap, and
Mm-hmm.
then at the end of the day, see, okay, what did I buy? I like the I like the idea of minting. Just like taking your chances of getting something, that's cool or whatever. Even if I don't really like the project or whatever, I'll do that just because I want to get something that is rare or cool or whatever. But I think it's NFTs are really exciting as far as the algorithmic way that traits are built in.
Yeah.
It's a very innovative thing that I'm
I,
just a big fan.
I was actually thinking about this when you were saying like the problem with the DeFi or with the blockchain space sometimes is people holding. I think maybe NFTs are a great way to give people who want to hold something an incentive of doing that, right? Like something increasing in value while actually also creating value. For example, through the staking that you guys are doing or different kind of mechanisms
Hmm.
and actually be able to hold on to something and have that investment kind of mentality that is yeah, that is maybe not helpful in many cases when you do want these tokens to actually be used rather than held in order for them to reach, I don't know, their full potential.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a good point. It's I what I think is most exciting about NFTs is the stuff that we haven't thought about yet.
Hmm.
There's whether you get into like deeds and property and things like that, but we're talking to one guy who is signed by Sony Records, and their biggest focus right now is licensing for music and giving credit um, to artists that maybe have contributed or something like that. Because when you have an MP3, you don't really have a way of telling people like, hey, um, this is a shout out to this or whatever, like giving people credit in that way. But an NFT, you can pack all that data into it,
Hmm.
and you can really that those credits and that licensing will follow that song forever.
Yeah.
So that's something that we're really going to roll into with the Kavarii tracks and things like that. But there's so much that I think we haven't thought about yet that is coming down the pipeline. And there's a lot of smart people out there that are going to start thinking of these ideas of, hey, we can do this, we can do this, and it's going to just change the game overnight, right? As soon as one of these ideas pops, it's going to become popular and people are going to run with it. It's going to just change the fabric of the entire ecosystem. So, we're always on the lookout for like that next kind of ingenious idea, and hopefully we're the ones that come up with it. But if not, we'll support whoever does, and try to build off it. But there's so much left to build, and we're so early in this space that I'm constantly kind of not looking over my shoulder, but waiting for that next thing that is like, okay, what can we do? Yeah, I saw that coming. Some bitch. You distract me with these questions, man.
I mean, that's the only way I can ever win a chess game. You're in the game though. You're in the game. You
I got
started
beat
to clean up.
by my 13-year-old the other day, and he has not let me live it down.
So that to me is also amazing. You run two huge projects, two of the larger projects on the blockchain, um, and and then you also have a 13-year-old to take care of and lose chess against. Um,
Yeah.
that must be a lot to kind of fit all in. Do you sleep at all?
Um, Not much. I work mostly at night. I during the day is kind of all the playing CEO stuff, the
Hmm.
handling or dealing with, different marketing strategies and working with the team and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of my programming, it gets done at night. I really dive in at, 5, 6 o'clock at night after dinner, and then I'll go till, 2, sometimes 3 in the morning. And then I'm up at, 7, 8 o'clock and doing it all over again. But I'm one of those people that I have to stay busy. I don't like, twiddling my thumbs. Like, I'll sit there for 20 seconds, and if I'm not doing anything, I'll think of 10 things that I need to be doing, and I'll just dive into them. So, I don't look at it as like, oh, I have all this stuff to do. I look at it as I have all this stuff I can do.
Hmm.
So, jump into it and just start going. So that's, you know, I haven't had a day off in a couple months, and I really don't notice that much, because what else would I be doing?
Yeah.
There's not a lot to do, um, especially when it's wintertime around here, because it's so cold. We don't have a lot of snow. So it's like, okay, I can just go and, like, shoot hoops or something, but I'd rather build something. I'd rather work on something that, is going to push us forward, push the space forward, or whatever.
What do you see as some of the biggest challenges to mass adoption? I mean, that's kind of not not a chess part question, but it was something that I was wondering while you were talking about, because you highlighted some of the issues, of course, that the space has as a whole, and maybe also a certain mentality. But what are kind of the biggest challenges to your mind that hold the space back from being in the state of mass adoption?
I don't think the technology is there yet, for ease of use.
Yeah.
Having a wallet connects and exchanges and all this stuff, it's very intimidating for people that aren't comfortable with the ecosystem. So, you have your core group of people that either understand the space or they're willing to dive in and learn. But the mass adoption doesn't come until you have ease of use.
Yeah.
Uh, and we're still pretty far away from that, in my opinion. I think we're 5 years away, until we have technology that is so seamless it'll work like email. When email first came out, when the internet first came out, people were super confused, and it took a good 5 to 10 years before it was a household name and everybody was building websites and all this kind of stuff. So, it's to me that's the hardest part, is allowing people to make that transition from Web 2 to Web 3, because there is a lot that's different, but there's a lot of risk because of self custody.
Yeah.
Right? When you're now in charge and you're not FDIC insured and you're not, there's not a hotline that you can call to, fix an issue that you have. it's a very scary place for new people. The young generation, I think, is going to pick up on it quick just because that's the way things are. But if you want to get the over 40 generation, it needs to become a lot more simple than it is.
Yeah.
A lot of people will point towards the risks, like with FTX, and I'm not going to touch that thing because
Yeah. We're out of time, I think, for that one.
yeah, it's like that stuff's always going to be there. I mean, it's not. People are like, here's what I hate about it is people that are screaming for regulation, right? People are screaming for institutions to come in. Crypto wasn't built with the idea that we want institutions to come in. Like I personally, and again, maybe an unpopular opinion, I think the institutions are going to ruin crypto. I straight up think it. Now, why do people want institutions to come in? Simply for the fact that it'll pump their bags, right? That's the only reason why they want them to come in. I look at it from a different point of view. I don't have bags that I want to pump like that. That I think it's willing to risk the entire ecosystem because it's one of those things. Careful what you wish for. If you want the institutions to come in, you're going to get all the baggage that comes with that, which is more market manipulation, the regulation that's going to stop a lot of the exciting things that crypto is known for, right? A lot of people that are here because of the money, they're here because of the big swings, the volatility, right? The opportunity that you could put in $1,000 and turn it into 1 million,
Mm.
within a couple months. All that's going to go away, and you're going to have things that you're going to be happy to get 2 to 3%, market movement a day or something like that. And it's not a bad thing necessarily, and I'm kind of just talking in a tangent, but careful what you wish for. I don't think institutions is what crypto's for. I think crypto is anti-institution. I think it's anti-government. I think it's anti-control and conformity. Crypto was built on the basis that it's for the people by the people, and that's the way I want to see it stay. But it's unfortunate that sometimes greed gets the best of people, and they want what's best for them, not what's best for the space. And I don't say that as like a blanket term that everybody thinks that way. It's just if you this is why I got off Twitter. If you scroll through Twitter, all you're gonna see is people finding ways to pump their bags and
Yeah.
through scam giveaways and airdrops and all this other shit. And it's like that's cool for them, but it ruins everything that I came here for. And I might be alone in that, and I'm okay with that. But I just think that crypto should stay for the people and not go to this institutionalized, trusting the hedge funds that know what's best for us. I think that's a mistake.
Yeah. I'm curious. The one thing I would say there that's interesting to me, like in order for us to actually make it comfortable enough for my parents or your parents to actually get in the space, is to get rid of some of the volatility that the market movements that can be like 10-20% in a day,
Yep.
more if you're unlucky, more if you hold FTT, but um, I, there comes there's this trade-off, right, where you have innovation that thrives on exactly that kind of environment, but then you also have the drawback of never ever getting these people, our parents, involved in something where you can lose your retirement overnight, through no fault of your own, right? Like nothing you ever did caused this, other than investing in it or trusting the the actors in that space.
No, that's a good point. And I think it's true. People hate volatility. They're not going to buy into something that can go to zero, or they're not going to put their life savings into something. But again, I think looking at it that way is looking at crypto as strictly an investment vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't look at crypto, but crypto as an investment vehicle. I don't look at blockchain or Web3 as an investment vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one use case of it, and that's usually the initial use case that gets people involved because it's exciting, right? You can buy in and price go up, price go down, whatever. But I look at it as, if you want technological adoption, put the coins to use, make them have a bunch of use cases, then volatility is going to be minimized. There's always going to be there, but it'll be minimized because of, so many tokens being transferred in and out. And not being held into big bags because big bags can ruin a price, right? If a whale holds a huge portion of your tokens and then they decide to dump,
Yeah.
there's nothing you can do about that. And if you're building a project that promotes holding, you're setting yourself up for that, in the long run. And that's, back to like when people ask about us doing staking and stuff like that. I don't want people to hold big bags of Kavarii. I mean, if they do, more power to them, right? But that's not our goal in life is to, you know, get out a bunch of tokens to a very few amount of people. We
Yeah.
want a lot of people to have, not big bags and be able to use the token freely. And I think that will add stability to the token because, the buy sell pressure will be kind of evened out to a sort. So that's the idea behind it. But, it's easier said than done, obviously. It's just one of those things of how much utility can we build into the product to try to minimize the risk of volatility because, at the end of the day, the more utility you have, the more you're going to balance out that buy and sell.
Yeah. I
Hey,
think that's
Dean.
some great thoughts to end on. I offered you a draw, a very peaceful result. You got to accept it though.
I'm gonna say
Um,
you're too kind.
I'm not like your son, you know?
Oh, he's cutthroat, man. He'll be beating me and he'll still like cheat just to like try to rub it in a little bit more. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
whatever.
Ryan, thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you for building this platform.
Of
I
course.
hope it worked. I will also upload a recording of the entire conversation, which I hope worked. And so people who maybe tuned in late or for whatever reason the stream wasn't working, can rewatch it because I think you mentioned some really important things, some really good thoughts on kind of like where the space is at, where it should be at, where it can go, if we play our cards right and actually build um, things that are useful to people on top of it. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, so thank you so much for taking the time. And thank you everybody for tuning in. I'll see you all later. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.